Oh my god, it's finally here! Hey everybody, it's Marshall Monkey here, and this is gonna be my Descendants 2 movie review. Oh wow, it feels so good to say those words. I have been covering Descendants for so long, and all of you have been along with me. So thank you so much for subscribing, for commenting, for liking, for favoriting, whatever it is you do. Thank you for viewing. I really love having all of you here with me, and I think it's really great that we can celebrate Descendants 2's arrival. So yes, this movie is out officially now on Watch Disney. One of the things that I was actually really upset about, though, right out of the gate for this movie, is that I didn't get to see it a week early. Yes, Watch Disney to not make this available a week early for all of the TV provided accounts. I think that that's ridiculous. Raven's Home even was on Watch Disney officially today, right? This morning it hit Watch Disney. I thought that that should have also hit a week early, but it didn't. So I just think it's ridiculous that we had to wait till actual premiere day, right? Because it's kind of like, how cool would it have to have like buzz, you know, all this movie buzz a week early from your film, right? Because I always give the good reviews a week early. I loved Adventures of Babysitting, gave it a good review a week early. Loved The First Descendants, gave it a good review a week early, right? So I just don't understand why they didn't make it available for Watch Disney. It's just ridiculous to me. But Descendants is just still the top three trending hashtag worldwide right now on Twitter. So I guess they still have that movie buzz. But let's jump into the characters and let's talk about the movie a little bit. So Dove Cameron, I loved Dove Cameron quite a bit, but unfortunately here, she is the problem child. That's right. If all of the characters from Descendants were my children, Mal would be my problem child, because she pretty much ruins this film. Meaning the plot, right? I mean, she's the one who causes the whole thing. I'm not saying the film is bad, I'm saying that she's the one who makes all these bad decisions, right? She chooses to go back to being Mal, right? Like the old Mal. But she realizes that she's both Auradon and Isle at the end, but still, she causes all this trouble before she realizes it. Also, what I thought was weird is that all of you were telling me that this movie took 2 years after the first movie. And wrong, it doesn't. Actually, Mal confirmed in the movie that it takes place 6 months after. So I think it's crazy that Mal did a complete 180 right at 6 months after. No matter how much struggle you have, Mal, as a princess, she did a 180, right? I don't buy it, right? And they didn't even show us that much struggle for us to really buy it in the first place. But Jay, on the other hand, I liked Jay. Jay was pretty much along for the ride in this movie, though. He didn't really have that much to do. But I do think that the sensitive side of Jay that we got to see this time around, like when he said, "I will drive you back to the Isle myself," I thought that was so great. I thought that was fantastic, because it was just like so pleasing to see a sensitive side of Jay, right? It's just so magical. So I thought that was really great. And also, I do like the action sequences that Boo Boo Stewart's been doing in this film. I don't know if it's all Boo Boo Stewart, but I'm pretty sure it is, because I think he does all of his own stuff. But I'm not for sure on that. But I think he does, right? Evie is fabulous. Evie's actually one of my top 4 favorites of this film. Evie was great. I think that Evie has just really been successful. I mean, in the first movie, she played someone she wasn't, right? I mean, she tried to be someone she wasn't so that she could get a guy. But now in this movie, she knows who she is. She's embraced it. She loves who she is. She loves she loves Auradon. I think that overall, she's just really happy. She's a happy person. Also, she's so caring, you know, for Dizzy and all the other kids on the island. I think that was also really sweet as well. But also, Sophia Carson is just an amazing actress, and her vocals in this film. I mean, I knew she could sing, but wow. I mean, in the first Descendants, we didn't really get that much of her singing herself, but here, her vocals were just so great. Cameron Boyce, also, you know, Carlos, also one of my top 4 favorites, because he had so much more to do in this movie. Amen. He did not have anything to do in the first film, and now here we are. And that was actually one of my things that I wanted for this film, was for Carlos to have a bigger role. And he did, and I loved it. And also one of my things that I wanted him to have in this movie was a love interest, and he did. So good job, Kenny Ortega, for making that happen, right? But I love Carlos so much is that 1, he gets a lot more to do in this movie. 2, he's matured a lot as a character. And 3, what also I love about Carlos is that he's the voice of reason in this film, right? I mean, he sits everyone down. He's like, everyone sit on this lawn, and we're going to talk about our problems. That was fantastic. That was just so good. So I think that it was so nice to really showcase how much of a character Carlos has become. I think it was fabulous, actually. So, good job, Carlos. You made it into my top 4. But you know who didn't make it into my top 4? Ben. Ben did not make it into this top 4 at all. In fact, he's probably the last on the list. And the reason why is because I think his entire plan was terrible, right? First of all, and I actually covered this in my trailer review. First of all, why would you drive the limo into the Isle of the Lost in the trailers, right? It's just like all the glowiness of the bridge and like the magic. It's just like, hi, I'm Ben from Ordon and I'm coming to the Isle, don't beat me, right? It's just like, oh gosh, Ben, you have no idea what you're doing, right? I do think that the scene he had with Uma was pretty touching, though. The scene where he's like, I'm sorry, I didn't know that my choice would actually affect other children, right? But it did, and I think that it was really cool to showcase that, too. So that was pretty good. But other than that, I just think Ben was, like, totally out of line with, like, all of his choices, right? It was just weird. But I did like how he was spelled, too, by Uma, which we'll talk about later. So I thought he was okay, but he just did not make it on my list. As for some of the other supporting characters, we have Jane, and Jane was back. Jane was surprisingly charming to have in this movie. I think that in the first movie, I didn't really like her that much. But here, she's just really kind of chill, right? It's just kind of like, okay, I'm starting to like you a little bit more. So I really like seeing her as a more charming character. And I really do think she was really nice going out with Carlos. That was pretty touching as well. Lonnie, on the other hand, I had a real problem with Lonnie. So here's the problem. I liked her action sequences quite a bit, and I do think that she was pretty cool ending up with Jay. I mean, they were hinting at a romance there, you could kind of tell. But one thing that I didn't like is that when she approached the team, right, to get on the team, for the tourney team, I thought that was cool. But then later on, she was brought in as team captain. Like, they were like, a loophole, we'll be the 8 men, and you'll be the team captain. So there's like a loophole in the handbook. And I was like, but then that's not really fighting for women's rights to be on this team. Because it's kind of like, because she showed off to Jay in the Isle of what she could really do, he just made her captain, and that kind of made it all go away. But what if another woman wanted to be on this team? Does that mean she'll have to be captain too? I mean, what's the stretch here? The end goal was to be able to have a woman join this tourney team, and Lonnie didn't really achieve that goal when you think about it. She really just kind of worked her way in as the team captain. So does that mean women are allowed on this team? So they didn't really clarify that. I thought that was kind of weird to leave it off like that, right? I just thought that wasn't really Mulan-like. Chad was back too. I really think Chad was unnecessary in this film. Really, the only reason why he was in this movie was to tie in the 3D printer twist that they had later on with the wand. That was the only reason why he was featured in this film. So I really feel like he was unnecessary. It was still nice having him, I guess, because it was kind of like, oh, you're from the first film, so here you are here. But other than that, it was kind of just like, you're kind of unnecessary. Doug, on the other hand, was just also another charming character to have here. Because I loved his banter. Or I guess maybe not banter. I loved his commentary on EV camping. That was a funny scene. But I do think that he's really nice to have. And I think it's reassuring to know that Evie didn't go through all that Evie didn't go through all that work to become who she is as a person to not have Doug in her life, right? So I'm glad that he's at least there. And I think that that was cool to showcase that. Uma! Let's talk about China A. McClain. I loved her. I didn't like the arm wrestling. That was terrible. The arm wrestle was so bad. And I covered that in one of my trailer reviews. Go back and watch that. But that was just awful. But the rest of Uma was perfect. I loved Uma quite a bit. I thought she was a really cool character. A cool villain, even. She didn't stand up as much as I thought she would. I really thought Ursula was going to shine as the villain. But I guess Uma was the main villain here. I guess. It's okay. But I thought that China Anne McClain's vocals were good. I thought her, some of her lines were just really powerful as a villain. And I thought that she did a good job of giving reason why she wanted revenge, right? I mean, she wasn't chosen to go to the Isle. No one thought of her. And I think that it was really good drive and really good purpose for her to get this revenge, especially the scene that she had with Ben. That scene, I really thought she was considering letting him go. Like, her acting was just so good there. And then we have to talk about Harry. Harry was fabulous. Again, Another top 4 favorite. Uma was also in my top 4, but Harry was my number 1 character here in this film. No, he didn't have much to do, but he was so cool. He had a really Jack Sparrow, Jared Leto Joker vibe going on in this movie, and I really do think that it was just such a cool performance. It was a really fun performance, and also flashy. And I think that the actor who plays him is going to go far with getting other jobs after this film, because I really do think he was just so interesting here, right? I mean, it was kind of like, he was kind of just like infectious, right? It was kind of like, oh, I just want more of Harry, because he was that fun of a character. And then Gale, Gaston's son, he didn't really have much to do in this film, and I was kind of hoping he had more, but he didn't. He was kind of just there to be kind of maybe like the backup character. Like, you have to have a good trio of villains, and I guess he was just the third one to be featured. He kind of had a little bit of funny moments, but other than that, nothing much there with Gaston's son. Maybe in the third movie we'll see him again, or maybe in Wicked World if that ever comes back. I don't know if that's coming back or not, but maybe we'll see him again at some point. So let's talk about some of the other things I loved about the movie. The soundtrack is so good. Unfortunately for some people, the dubstep, EDM, pop soundtrack from the first movie kind of took a back seat to where this movie we got more ballads, more early 2000s pop. I really do think that there was a lot of Ally and AJ, Katy Perry, old school Rihanna, Britney. Like, there was kind of that influence that I saw here. A little bit, just tiny bits, not that much, because the soundtrack still stands out on its own as Descendants, right? I mean, the soundtrack's actually number 1 right now. So I would say that they deserve to be known as their own, right? Not influenced by other artists. I also thought that the set pieces, the wardrobe, the makeup, the hair, all of it was just so fairy tale. And I really do think that this movie was very much Broadway too, right? It just really reminded me of like a Broadway show, especially the pirate ship scene, like the whole fight scene there with the swords. It reminded me a lot of like a family-friendly Broadway. And don't be surprised if Descendants gets a Broadway show. I would say that it's very likely at this point, because they proved they can pull it off. Because the first movie seemed like a lot like a fairy tale movie, like just a regular DCOM. But here it's just like, screw the movies, you know, screw cinematics. We're just going to go with a Broadway-inspired movie. And I think that they really worked here. As for the twist that Uma gave it near the end of the movie, because I really thought they were going to have a third act battle or something. They did have a third act sequence for like a little bit, like a brief one. But they really went with this big twist that Uma shows up and spells Ben. I knew it all along, but it was still kind of fun to see this like nicer, cleaned up Uma. It was cool, right? It was kind of like, oh, how, like, it was jaw-dropping. I really did enjoy it. And I think China Anne McClain played it perfectly. I think it was great. As for the brief third act fight sequence, Mal turning into a dragon, didn't see that coming, but I did love it. It was just like, oh, the Maleficent roots have taken over, right? And Uma turning into the big kraken squid octopus that Ursula is, was also quite cool. And I think the effects looked quite better than the first movie. The first movie's effects were like standard DCOM, but this movie, I bet you anything, Kenny Ortega was like, hey Disney, can I have a bigger budget? And Disney was like, aw, yeah, you can. So I bet that's what happened, and I bet that's why the effects were better. So that was pretty cool. And I do appreciate that Kenny maybe asked. I think that he did ask, to be honest with you. But that's okay, because everyone asks for more money for sequels. And I think the effects, again, just looked quite awesome. They were just cool. I loved seeing it. It was fun. And I do think that the last finale song was like a compliment to set it off. It didn't top it, but it was a compliment to it. And I think that the water dance sequences were so fun. So overall, I think Descendants 2 did everything it needed to do. It set every mark it needed to, and it hit every note, it hit every tone, it hit everything. Everything was perfect here. And I can tell you, Disney is definitely going to get a Descendants 3. Whether or not it'll be in theaters like High School Musical 3, that's a different question. But I do think we're going to get a Descendants 3 eventually. And I'm hoping that it's just as good as the first 2 movies, because they are fabulous. What did you guys think of the movies? Comment down below. Did you like them? Did you not like them? Who were your favorite characters? Top 3, 4, 5, whatever you have. Comment down below that as well. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. And I will see you guys later for some more videos. Bye-bye.